marking a century since one of the worst outbreaks of racist violence in U.S. history. 100 years ago, a white mob descended on a prosperous black neighborhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, killing hundreds of people and burning city blocks to the ground, destroying what was known as Black Wall Street.
We too are America. We too are Americans.
Ceremonies held ahead of the anniversary remembering the victims of the massacre. 3 survivors, the oldest 107 years old, honored at a memorial march.
Black people in Tulsa have been oppressed ever since the massacre for 100 years.
In 1921, on May 31st and into June 1st, white rioters devastated the community after a white woman accused a black man of assault, an allegation that was never proven. An estimated 300 people were killed, a number that may change as Tulsa begins exhuming bodies that may be linked to the deadly rampage. The horrors have been unknown to many for decades and have only recently entered the national conversation amid the country's racial reckoning.
For too long, forgotten by our history. As soon as it happened, there was a clear effort to erase it from our memory, our collective memories, from the news and everyday conversations. For a long time, schools in Tulsa didn't even teach it, let alone schools elsewhere.
On Tuesday, Joe Biden became the first sitting U.S. president to take part in remembrances of the Tulsa massacre. He announced new measures aimed at reducing the racial wealth gap.
My administration has launched an aggressive effort to combat racial discrimination in housing. That includes everything from redlining to the cruel fact that a home owned by a black family is too often appraised at a lower value than a similar home owned by a white family. But just as fundamental as any of these investments I've discussed is maybe the most fundamental: the right to vote. The right to vote.
And in a presidential proclamation released by the White House Monday, Biden is asking all Americans to reflect on the deep roots of racial terror in our nation and recommit to the work of rooting out systemic racism across our country. Melissa Duggan, City News.